Another apparent anomaly is Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 18 to 21. Did not your fathers do the same, so that our Elohim brought all this evil on us and on this city? Yet you bring added wrath on Israel by profaning the Shabbat. And it came to be, at the gates of Jerusalem, as it began to be dark before the Shabbat, that I commanded the gates to be shut, and commanded that they should not be opened till after the Shabbat. And I stationed some of my servants at the gates, so that no burdens would be brought in on the Shabbat day. And the merchants and sellers of all kinds of wares spent the night outside Jerusalem once or twice. And I warned them and said to them, Why do you spend the night around the wall? If you do so again, I lay hands on you. From that time on they came no more on the Shabbat. As it began to be dark before the Shabbat, could infer that Sabbath starts when the sun goes down, but does not have to be the case. Against the weight of all other scripture, it would be foolish to base your Sabbath on this one verse. In fact, it was customary to close the gates at night, and earlier in Nehemiah we see why they were closing the gates. Nehemiah chapter 7 verse 3 records, And I said to them, Let not the gates of Jerusalem be opened until the sun is hot. And while they are standing by, let them shut the doors and bolt them, and appoint guards from among the inhabitants of Jerusalem, each at his post, and each in front of his own house. Nehemiah had ordered them to shut the gates at night anyhow, and were not to be opened until the sun was hot. And as we see from the context of the scripture, Nehemiah did not want the Sabbath profaned by merchants carrying in their wares and selling them on the day of rest. The merchants undoubtedly traveled on the sixth day and arrived toward the end of the day, so Nehemiah simply shut the gates on them. Notice also in the text, Why do you spend the night around the wall? If you do so again, I lay hands on you. Laying hands on someone, obviously forcefully, is not something one would do on the Sabbath, which tends to infer that the evening they arrived was not when the Sabbath commenced. There are also a great number of scriptures that declare uncleanness till evening, and certain events taking place before evening that could add to the error of assumption that a day starts in the evening. None of these scriptures actually state this, and it is common sense to be made clean at evening, so that persons may come into the camp to spend the night, as it was unlawful for an unclean person to come into the camp. More importantly, if the next day were a Sabbath, an individual would not be able to participate in any Kodesh assembly and would have to wait for the next evening. Some see evidence that this is how the Pharisees, instituting an evening to evening day, created a fence law around this. It was for this reason that dead bodies were removed before evening. See Joshua chapter 8 verse 29 and Mark 15 verse 42, and that it was commanded in the Torah, Deuteronomy 21 verse 23, but not because it was the start of a new day. Some may use the excuse that starting the day in the morning is based on sun worship, but this is an invalid argument, and the same can be said about evening start being based on moon worship, since moon worship is equally as ancient as sun worship. In fact, looking at many historical commentaries, it appears that the Israelites inherited lunar observance from the Babylonians, who revered the moon above the sun, and that it was more mysterious at night. It is also interesting to note that the phrase night and day appears 13 times in Scripture, yet the phrase day and night appears 28 times, twice as many. The order of day preceding the night in Scripture is used 84 times compared to only 19 of the opposite, over 4 times as many. When determining a set period of time, for example, 40 days and 40 nights, which appears 11 times, the Scriptures always use the order of day and night. Why would the Scriptures record a count of days starting with the day if a day starts with a night? Notice the order of the natural processes that Yahweh has ordered. Genesis chapter 8 verse 22. As long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and winter and summer, and day and night shall not cease. This is what Yahweh has to say about the order of the day and night. Jeremiah chapter 33 verse 20 to 21. Thus said Yahweh, if you could break my covenant with the day, and my covenant with the night, so that there be not day and night in their season, then my covenant could also be broken. Continuing verse 25 to 26, thus said Yahweh, if my covenant is not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the laws of the Shamayim in the earth, then I would also reject the descendants of Yaakov. So far we have examined the scriptures from which should come all our doctrine, but it is also interesting to delve into some of the studies of historians and commentaries which can confirm what we have read. Quote, the night time is considered as belonging to the preceding period of daylight. From this there developed the meaning of day in the sense of the cycle made up of one period of daylight and one period of darkness, or according to our modern reckoning, 24 hours. From the natural viewpoint, the 24-hour day begins at sunrise. However, beside this conception there arose another idea of the 24-hour day, according to which this daily period began at sunset. It was no doubt the lunar calendar of the Jews which gave rise to this viewpoint. Although the earlier computation did not die out completely, the custom of considering the day as beginning at sunset became general in later Jewish times. Both these quotes from the Encyclopedic Dictionary of the Bible, page 497. There can be no doubt that in pre-exilic times the Israelites reckoned the day from morning to morning. The day began with the dawn and closed with the end of the night following it. Jacob Zalel Lauterbach, Rabbinic Essays, Cincinnati Hebrew Union College Press, 1951, page 446. To the light he gives the name day, to the darkness the name night. Thus the work of the first day, reckoned probably from morning to morning, is accomplished. The period of light is followed by evening and darkness, which comes to an end with the next morning, when the second day begins. Peake's Commentary on the Bible, page 136. In the Old Testament, the earlier practice seems to have been to consider that the day began in the morning. In Genesis 19:34, for example, the morrow, or the next day, clearly begins with the morning after the preceding night. Jack Finnegan, The Handbook of Bible Chronology, page 7 and 8. In earlier traditions, a day apparently began at sunrise. For example, Leviticus 7:15-17, Judges 19, verse 4-19. Later, its beginning was at sunset and its end at the following sunset. The system became normative and is still observed in Jewish tradition, where, for example, the Sabbath begins on Friday evening at sunset and ends Saturday at sunset. Oxford Companion to the Bible, page 744. That the custom of reckoning the day as beginning in the evening and lasting to the following evening was probably of late origin is shown by the phrase, tarry all night, Judges 19, verse 6-9. The context shows that the day is regarded as beginning in the morning. In the evening the day declined, and until the new day, morning, arrived, it was necessary to tarry all night. Compare also Numbers 11, verse 32. International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. It is also interesting that according to the Karaite historian Al-Kirisan I, the dissident Meswi al-Akbari broke from traditional rabbinical Judaism in an attempt to get back to the original religion and began the reckoning of the day from sunrise. The itinerary of R. Benjamin of Tudela, 9, 5-8, Grut Adler, 1904, page 23. Among the Greeks, the day was reckoned from sunset to sunset. Handbook of Chronology, page 8. Among the ancient Israelites, as among the Greeks, the day was reckoned from sunset to sunset. This was the custom also of the Gauls and ancient Germans, and was probably connected originally with the cult of the moon. There is, however, evidence that this was not the custom at all times. Delitzsch in Dillman's commentary on Genesis 1:5. Early in the Old Testament period, when Canaan was under Egypt's influence, the day started at sunrise. Later, perhaps under Babylonian influence, the calendar seems to have changed. The day began at moonrise, 1800 hours, and a whole day became an evening and a morning. Lyon Encyclopedia of the Bible, page 163. The Israelites, like the Babylonians, counted their days from sunset to sunset. NIV Study Bible, page 707.